Oh, a very blessed good day. With the glorious sheen of Christmas and the holidays in the background now, reality confronts you and me in the face. Winter illnesses, snowstorms that complicate your schedules and plans, seasonal blues, and guess what? Income tax time is not far away as well. Oh no. There may be other things you must face that are really not all that pleasant this year. And yet, when you go to the Psalms, what do they tell you to do over and over again? In Psalm 33, verse 1, the psalmist has written, "Rejoice in the Lord, O ye righteous, for praise is comely." That's an interesting word. It's in the King James. Praise is comely for the upright. That word comely means right. So it's right in God's sight for you to be thankful in your heart with all your might. No matter what the circumstances you're facing might happen to be, the God-man of Calvary puts himself above those circumstances in your life. He's the Lord. Your circumstances are not in charge of you this new year. God is in charge of your life. After all, Psalm 30 verse 11 says that we have been girded with gladness. That means encircled by it, surrounded by it, from the Almighty himself. The psalmist responds to that girding with this statement. He said, "Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy." In Psalm 100, the psalmist writes, "Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing." How about you this very day? Are you coming into his presence with singing? Or at least with a joyful noise? If you were to keep track of every statement you make on any given day, how many of your statements would be categorized as being thankful? And how many as grumbling and complaining? Prayerfully, the thankful statements would come out on top. But think about this. Should there be any unthankful statements at all? The Apostle James has written, "Do not grumble against one another, brothers, so that you may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door." Meaning Jesus' return is at hand, and who would want him to return finding us grumbling and complaining instead of praising and thanking him? A suburban commuter train was crowded on a hot day. The seats were all taken, and many people were standing. At one station, a cripple was carried on, and as the passengers made room and gave him a seat, one of them complained. And he said, "Look, we've been standing here for an hour." And the invalid looked up at the impatient man and said, "You are very fortunate." Yes, he could stand. The invalid could not. So with whom do you identify today? With the invalid or with the complainer? It's easy to complain. Anybody can do it. It doesn't take any talent at all. The weather is terrible. I'm sick of it. The toast is burned. Or I just purchased this new vehicle and it already has 5 rattles in it. Or you fill in the blank. The truth is, God has filled in the blank of your life with his love and forgiveness demonstrated on the cross of Calvary for you and for me. When you know that God has sacrificed his own Son, the Son of God who is true God, in your place, when you really consider the ramifications of that sacrifice, namely, that you will live forever, where then is there any room for grumbling and complaining? No. For the Christian, for you and for me, there's only room for praising and thanking. In Psalm 113, the psalmist writes, "From the rising of the sun to the going down of the same, the Lord's name is to be praised." I wear a cross around my neck every day. Not always this one, but I wear a cross every day to remind myself who I am and whose I am. And I find it very difficult to grumble and complain when I look at that cross and remember that God has purchased a place in eternity for me. God's precious word, as you faithfully go to it each day, is a reminder of who you are and whose you are. Indeed, his word is your thanksgiving prompter And there's no way you can grumble and complain when you're in the Lord's Word. Try it. Try to grumble and complain and be in the Lord's Word at the same time. It's not going to happen. There's no room for it. There's only room for Christ. Only room for His love. Only room for His forgiveness and strength that you get. Spiritual strength from the Holy Spirit to push grumbling and complaining aside and replace them with praising and thanking instead. So how are you coming with that replacement process today? Talk to you, God willing, next week.